I'm here at the Canada Strong and Free Networking Conference in Ottawa. And one of the things that is always present at this conference is a large amount of exhibitors and sponsors. Right in front of me, there is a row of booths from different organizations that are seeking to reach out to the conservative movement and to conservative-minded people. One of these organizations is the Ladies of Liberties Alliance. And with me is the president of their Canadian chapter, Ana Rizo. So, Anna, do you want to tell us a bit about what LOLA is and the work that they do?
Well, LOLA is a chapter-based organization. We are across different countries. We are located in more than 20 countries now. I'm leading the Canada chapter. And what we do is that we give an alternative to women that are interested in politics. They're interested in the discussion of ideas, but they don't like the narrative of the left. So essentially, we want to give a space for women that are interested in the liberty movement. Many women that are libertarians, and some of them don't even know it.
Right.
Like, for example, so many women are like, oh, yeah, I support women's rights, but I don't like the narrative that men are the enemy. And honestly, in LOLA, you find a space for that because we believe in the individual. We believe that women and men, they're individuals.
Right.
Like, men are not the enemy, the woman is not the enemy of the man. And, in the end, we promote liberty, we promote freedom, and we promote free market ideas.
Absolutely. What got you specifically interested in being involved with this group?
Well, as a person who had to live in a socialist country during most of my life, I was 23 years old when I moved to Canada. So I remember clearly what it's like to live in a socialist controlled country. I remember what it's like to live with hyperinflation. I remember what it's like to live without freedom of speech. Like, these kind of situations they taught me that, socialism and the left, they don't care about rights.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I know you quite well, and you're from Venezuela. How bad does socialism turn a prosperous nation into complete chaos? Because Venezuela has been quite badly hit by socialism and other leftist policies.
Well, when I left Venezuela, the situation was so bad that I had to go and line up to buy a bag of bread. That I had to go to the supermarket, do long lines, and they would not just tell me, you have to come if your ID number ends in, let's say, 9. You can only come on these days, and you can only buy one bag of bread per person. And that's all you're allowed to do. In worst case scenario, they will even ask for your fingerprints because you could only buy certain amount of food because there was a scarcity. And why there was a scarcity, you might ask yourself. Price controls, expropriation, no respect for private property at all, and that led to an economic disaster.
Well, it does sound disastrous. Indeed, obviously came to Canada, which has been a more free country. Over the last 3 years, we've seen several civil liberties breached in Canada. Does that concern you to see what has happened in Canada the last 3 years? And do you think it's getting better now? Or are you still concerned about some of the direction that Justin Trudeau has taken, the stuff that Jagmeet Singh wants to impose, for example, which kind of, sounds a little bit like what you're describing is happening in Venezuela?
It's actually very concerning. Since COVID started, I saw how the Canadian government used this crisis in order to expand power, in order to seek for control, right? So I never I never supported lockdowns. And people were like, no, that's inhuman. How are you going to do that? You shouldn't put the life of business on top of the life of people. But what people don't realize is that businesses are part of the life of people.
For sure.
Financial freedom is part of your life. How do you sustain your family if you don't have money?
No, that's true. It's a good point. We were talking a bit earlier before we started recording, and you mentioned something important. It is the way that socialism affects women. How are women impacted by socialism?
I believe that women take the worst when the economy goes downhill. And that's based on what I saw in my country. Women, we had a struggle more to get into the workforce. Now things are more equal in countries like Canada, which is good. But you know what is sad? To see that single mom that had to struggle with her kid on her own because the dad had to flee to another country because there was no alternative in Venezuela. It's sad to see the amount of women in Venezuela who were victims of human trafficking because it went up when the crisis came to my country. It was depressing to see how many women had to become basically like illegal prostitution went skyrocketing when this happened. So in situations like that, make you think, yes, women take the worst part.
And that's certainly very interesting, and it's quite sad, honestly. What I find even more sad is that, I see on university campuses and all the woke lefties now, they love socialism. And in fact, socialism is very popular amongst the young people, with socialist leaders like Bernie Sanders, or kind of selling this socialism as a problem solution, rather, to all our problems. Why do you think so many young people here in capitalist Western nations are so attracted by socialism, despite the fact that it's failed every time it's been tried?
Well, one of the reasons is because the left was very smart in taking over academia. That's something that I believe that they did strategically and they did with an obvious intention, that is to spread their ideology. And another thing is that many young people are very naive when it comes to propaganda. So I have seen some women, for example, telling me that, the Cuban healthcare system is good because they provide abortion, because they don't ban abortion in Cuba. And it's like, woman, do you have any idea why you have so many abortions in Cuba? Because preconception methods are a luxury. Condoms are a luxury. And like many of these women don't want to bring a child into a nation where they cannot even feed this child.
That's a fair point. Lastly, I mean, you guys obviously are doing some activism to try to fight back. Maybe others are as well. Like, what more needs to be done so that young people become quite, truly realize what's real socialism and what's it cost? Are we going to have to live through it in order for us to realize that it's bad, or do you think there's a way to
Honestly,
prevent that?
sometimes I feel like that too, but I believe that what it needs to be done is, spaces like this,
Yes.
activism, engagement. Like the reason why the left take over the mainstream is because we leave that space empty. Many people are not really engaged in politics. They see it as problematic. What am I gonna do this? And in the end of the day, that space that you leave, someone else will take it. And someone else will probably take it because they are radicalized with crazy ideas too.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, before we wrap up, do you want to show the camera your amazing search, Socialism Distancing? And my friends, please also practice legacy media distancing and support independent media at True North. It was a pleasure talking to you, Anna.
Thank you for inviting
Live
me,
in
Elie.
Ottawa, I'm Elie Cantin-Nantel.